me see them. Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Could you guys, everybody stand and salute the flag with me, please? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, item 6.2, we would like to move to the next meeting.
Okay, council, do I have an approval of the agenda with that change?
I'll make a motion to approve with the change.
I'll second.
It's been moved and motioned and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilman Horn,
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez,
Or we will end. Aye.
and Mayor Ramsey.
I also vote aye. Okay, there's awards, presentations, and appointments and proclamations. We have none. Citizens' comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the city council on any item that's within the jurisdiction of the council. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern, identify themselves, and use the microphone. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the city council this evening, and all items will be referred to staff for a follow-up and a report. Citizens' comments submitted in writing to the clerk by 5 o'clock p.m. on the day of the city council meeting shall be distributed to the city council and included into the record. Is there any, however, they will not be read. Is there anybody who would like to address the council? Sir? I didn't recognize you there for a second.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of council, Marissa. I wanted to use 3 minutes of public comment tonight to talk about, I'm George Anderson, Give Me Love Animal Shelter. I wanted to talk a little bit about the RCs who do our dog walking program. Mark Arcee, as you guys probably know, is coach. Got together with some local people and decided that they wanted to do a fundraiser for the animal shelter. And we are having a dinner on February 10th. I don't know if you've seen some of the tickets for sale in the local businesses, Ace Hardware and Salty Pickle, to name a few. They're $80 per ticket. It's going to be similar to the basketball fundraiser that he used to do. There's going to be some silent auctions, some really cool stuff that's getting donated. Thank you, Chief. There's a fantastic dinner planned, some 50-50 raffles, some baskets, some goodies, all kinds of stuff that's going to be shared with the community. And the donation and the proceeds are planned to go directly to enlarging kennels, doing everything that we can for the animals in the facility. So, in other words, I expect to see you guys all there. So I'll be looking for you guys, and I did it in less than 3, so that's all I got. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Nathan?
All right, Nathan Vosberg. Tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. Scott couldn't make it. He just wanted to give you a brief summary of a plan that we have for Mardi Gras. He sent the information to Marissa, and I'm sure she sent it all to you guys as well. He asked that I just give a brief overview of it. So basically, on March 4th at 3 o'clock until Sunday, March 6th at 3 o'clock, he would like to host Mardi Gras in the downtown area. And some of the things that looking at happening, things could change, but I'm thinking this is going to be one of the most amazing Mardi Gras ever. because we're talking about bringing in carnival rides, including a full Ferris wheel, and having a concert in the park, beer garden with mixed drinks and regular drinks, alligator alley swamp buggy ride, bounce houses, high school cornhole tournament, vendors, crafts, the carnival, the parade. There's going to be a parade, live music, a masquerade ball on Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8:30, and on Sunday, a breakfast in the plaza, a dog parade, a 2 and 5K family run, parent-child cornhole tournament, and then more vendors and music. And so, as a board, we've worked really hard on this, but I really have to give credit to Scott. He put this together within like an amazing record speed amount of time. And so this is going to be something I think Kalinga is going to be very proud of. And I wish he could be here because he has way more of the details than I do about this, but he had something he had to take care of. So I hope we can get your guys' support on this. It'll be a 2-day event instead of like a 1-day event.
3-day.
Oh, 3-day. Yes, exactly. 3-day. My bad. And the reason of that is because it just takes, in order to get the person to come with the carnival rides, that's how much it's going to take to recoup the money and to get him paid and all that. And plus, you know, with the huge amount of different events, it looks like that, you know, something could be for everyone. And so, do you guys have any questions?
Is there going to be pre-sale wristbands?
So he is talking about pre-sale wristbands, and right now the idea is that they would be $20 and that they would be sold in blocks so that you wouldn't have, one, so that everyone would get a chance to ride all the rides they want, and two, so that everyone doesn't bunch up. So, you know, at Derby sometimes we have a line forever and no one gets a chance to get on the rides. And so the idea this time was, hey, you know, be wary of COVID at the same time as helping people to be able to get onto those rides.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Right at 3 minutes there. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll go to the consent calendar. We have 12 items. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull? Is there anything that the public would like to pull out of the consent calendar? Seeing none, do I have a motion to accept or deny everything?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the, to approve the consent calendar as shown. Roll call, please.
Councilman Horn,
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez,
Aye.
and Mayor Ramsey.
I also vote aye. Okay, we'll go to item number 6, ordinance presentation, discussion of potential action items. Discussion of the direction and potential action item regarding the dispatcher contract with the city of Parlier. Marissa?
Thank you. So at the last meeting, Councilman Horn had requested this item as a future agenda item. And then subsequently, Councilman Atkinson had also come in to make sure it was going to be on the agenda. So if Councilman Horn wants to lead with the discussion, and then also with the understanding that Councilman Atkinson may also have more to add because he had also requested to make sure the item was on.
The question I had was about renegotiating the price that we actually charge. But we've been getting more emails and it's like a back and forth deal. So I think that's something we need to do in closed session before we bring it back to public. Because there's some legal issues that we're possibly going to have to deal with.
We won't be able to do that tonight, obviously, but I can talk with the city manager. We can see if we can figure something out.
We have till March, correct? Sometime in March? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So table it till the next meeting, at least? Okay.
They automatically open up, don't they? I'm sorry. They automatically open up in March.
Open it up when it's by request, by us to initiate the contract negotiation.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Council, the other alternative also would be if the council wanted to appoint an ad hoc committee of 2 of the council that could review this issue with the city manager and myself and kind of get a consensus on what to present to council, that would be also a good alternative.
I'll volunteer myself. Someone
You and
else is
Adam?
willing.
Since you guys both brought it up, or
Yeah.
that'd be okay? Okay, we have an ad hoc committee, and you guys can get with Marissa, and she can set up an appointment with you guys. Oh, no, I'm fine.
Mayor, can we get a motion, please?
Oh, okay, do we have a motion to set up the ad hoc committee consisting of Councilman Horn and Councilman Atkinson? It's an ad hoc committee.
Yeah. I'll make the motion to make a committee for myself and Councilman Horn
To discussion of
to discuss
negotiating.
the contracts with Parlier, with the city manager and the city attorney.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Horn,
Aye.
Councilman Ramirez,
Aye.
Mayor Ramsey.
I also vote aye. And even that ad hoc, it still has to come back to the full council. Okay, next we have item number 3, discussion, direction, and potential action items regarding the police department's take-home vehicle policy. Chief?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, council. Probably in about 2010, I wrote the vehicle take-home policy, which encompassed that officers who lived within the city were allowed to take their vehicles home. Those who lived outside, other than the chief, were not allowed to take their vehicles. Over the years, we've noticed the impact of this by not getting recruits to apply. So we began asking them over the last couple of times we went to recruit what would be something that would attract them to Coalinga, and they all asked if we had a take-home car policy. So this staff report encompasses our current policy that's under the discussion portion, and I'm requesting to do a pilot program for the next 6 months to see if any of our new hires, if we allow them to take their cars home within Fresno County, or 50 miles if they live outside of Fresno County to the city, to see what kind of impact that would have on our budget. I believe my current budget, I can do this for the rest of the remainder of this fiscal year. And then at the end of that 6 months, we would bring it back to council for them to review and make a final decision.
So you have it in your budget right now
Correct,
to cover that?
yes,
Even the maintenance on the vehicles and the
Right.
fuel and everything?
yes.
Any questions, council?
What are some of the liabilities that we would have?
So, their commute is going to be covered under the city's insurance if they do have the take-home vehicles. So, if an officer was involved in a vehicle accident on their way to or from work, we would be responsible not only for any damage to the police department vehicle, but any damage they cause to any other vehicle or property. So that is some additional liability that the city would be taking on.
Chief, what do you think about a possible stipend instead of a take-home vehicle? Maybe we stipend them some money every month for fuel.
That would probably be depending on what the stipend would be. A lot of these guys spend $400 to $500 a month coming into town to travel. So if you look at it in retrospect, that if they had a take-home vehicle, that'd be $400 to $500 that they'd be saving, which would be, to them, would be considered like a pay raise to them. So
The reason I think we turned this down in the past is because it cost so much for the fuel, and it was a lot more maintenance on the cars, and because they were getting a lot more mileage on the cars and stuff. But I don't know.
I just think that, a lot of them are already working a lot of overtime, and they're working overtime basically to cover their gas. And, just letting them take the vehicle would kind of help out a little bit, and not only that, if it attracts more interns or rookies, I think that's a good start to go. And plus, it's a 6 month, right? You said 6 months?
Correct.
6 month. Yeah, so,
Now, how many do we have living out of town right now?
At least half the department.
Now, is there mileage cap on that?
50 miles if you live outside of outside of Fresno County. Most of my guys live within Fresno Clovis, so it's at the most 60, 65 miles for those guys. But the other guys that live outside of Fresno County are like Lemoore or Hanford, 40 miles at the most.
And every officer is assigned their own car already.
Right.
Just my biggest thing is the liability. If we have an officer who gets into an accident in a city vehicle, it's gonna cost the city a lot of money.
It's no different than if they get in an accident while they're on duty patrolling the streets.
Right. But we're adding lots of mileage to that. So say an officer drives 100 miles a day, patrolling Coalinga, but then they drive double that going home and back. That increases our liability quite a bit. I'm not 100% against it, but I'm more tending to go toward a stipend every month for the officers and give that a 6-month pilot program, in my opinion. I think that decreases our liability. Plus, these cars aren't cheap. These cars are expensive, so the more miles we put on them, the quicker we are getting a new one, turning that one in and getting a new one.
Like I have in here, we can revisit it in 6 months if you feel that it's costing us too much money in the first 6 months and you want to go to a stipend, then we can revisit that in 6 months.
Is it possible we can check on what the cost difference is, the liability, to allow them to do that? If it's gonna change much or at all?
So, I mean, we can look at what an estimated cost on the wear and tear of the vehicle. As far as the liability to the insurance, we're self-insured, and so the cost is going to be if there is actually an accident, and so that's hard to determine what that cost would be. But we can look at the estimated cost of the wear and tear on the vehicle versus what an average stipend would be, and how do you determine who gets a stipend and who doesn't get a stipend, and then what is their incentive for living in Coalinga? I mean, if you're giving a stipend to those who are commuting, then what would ever entice them to move here? And then you have the ones that are commuting that are essentially making more money than the ones who live in town. And so I don't think a stipend is a bad idea. I just think that then you need to look at what are you going to do for the people who aren't commuting if you're doing something for the people who are commuting, because at the end of the day, the preference would be that they all live here. But if you're incentivizing them to live somewhere else, then how are you going to convince them to live here?
How many cars do we have total?
Patrol vehicles, we have about 18.
It would be great if they all lived in town. We could have patrol cars all over town. It would look, our town would look more safe that way. People would see that officers lived right there. I mean, we also, I mean, we already let the officers in town drive their cars home,
Right.
don't we?
Yes. There's another option that we can possibly look at as far as on their Mondays when they come to work, they could drive their personal vehicles in, then during the rest of the work week, they take the patrol car home. That way, if we need them in a split second, they at least got their patrol car to get here a little bit quicker, and they have the emergency lights to be able to get through the traffic. And then on their end of their work week, they leave their patrol vehicle here and take their personal car back home.
Do they have split work weeks?
Yeah, half the guy, there's the group, one part of the shift works Sunday through Tuesday, every other Wednesday. The other half works Thursday through Saturday, every other Wednesday.
So we're saving 4 days for each officer, or basically? Or is it 2 days?
You're saving 2 days.
That would limit personal use too, correct, when they have it?
Say that again?
That would limit the personal use as well, because if they're leaving their vehicle here, and they're taking the city vehicle, what are they
So-
gonna do on their days that they have the patrol car and they have no way to get around?
Correct, that's the other thing we gotta look at, see if they have multiple vehicles, or their wife has a vehicle, or other modes of transportation. That is true. If they choose to take a patrol car home during the work week and they have no other vehicle, the policy is written that they're not to use it other than to and from work, training, or going to court.
This is a hard one, because we want incentives to get people here, but,
Because I understand the wear and tear, and the wear and tear actually comes more of being in town. That those vehicles gonna get more wear and tear here in town, how they are back and forth, stop and go, stop and go, here and go, than taking it from one point A to one point B at a neutral rate. And if we're talking about wear and tear, it ain't gonna tear up the car. And I understand the liability is getting in a car accident. But if it's gonna cover them, you said it will cover them the same way as they got an accident here, right?
Right. Even, I believe even in their personal vehicle on their way into work, they're covered
Covered by the city.
covered under workers' comp for an accident on their way in.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so, but the only other thing I would say to that is if they do get in an accident and there's some kind of insurance issue or they want to sue the city, they're going to do it anyway regardless. Not to say that we would have to ultimately pay for it, but, they could always say, hey, they were being called into work and
Right.
they were technically on duty, so that's, the city's fault.
and how many officers do we have right now that are actually working?
Currently working, I have two out with, one on light duty, one out with the medical. I have two in the academy, and I'm currently down 5 positions. So with that, total, I'm at about 13 guys that are actually working right now.
So a lot of overtime, right?
Correct.
That's what I'm saying, is like, they're gonna be working for their gas and killing themselves for the gas. Just, I mean, like Chief said, if we're bringing it back in 6
It's
months.
not
and-
gonna stop the overtime, though.
No, I know, but I'm saying like, they're working, Mr. Bosworth, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Nathan Vosberg. I just want to make a comment. A lot of the money for the cars you guys get is from the COPS grant in the first place. And so that's money that is not out of council per se budget. I think you guys were working on some kind of maintenance plan for fleet, right? Does that apply to police vehicles as well? So there's
Yes.
your maintenance. And then here's the big deal. Police officers are hard to find, and they are fleeing everywhere. And so Fresno right now is having a hard time, even with their contract. I would say, if it was up to me, I would do this in a heartbeat, because you're going to want to try and entice some of those people to come here. And if our people leave, your overtime is going to go up. And I think we've had issues with people, wanting to go to greener pastures. And so if it was up to me, I was up there and didn't like this idea either, but I'm just saying, it seems like now would be a time for a good pilot program. And then if you didn't like it, you could actually use it to bring people in, and then, if you didn't like it for some reason, you could get rid of it. Just my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of took the words out of my mouth, but yeah, that kind of will show police officers to come and get us. He just mentioned that you have 2 on duty and 1 on light duty.
I have 12 on duty currently. I have 1 on light duty, 1 out on medical, and then I've actually got 2 in the academy, and we're pretty much with 5 more.
Yeah, just like Mr. Russell said, if the time is right now.
I just feel like they would want the cash more than they would want the car. If we give them cash, $400 to $500 a month, it seems like they would want that a heck of a lot more than they'd want the car. That's just my opinion, and it also decreases our liability. My biggest concern is the liability. That's my biggest concern, and the cost, because even though we're in this maintenance program, we still got to pay for it. It's not free. There's lots of cars. The cars aren't cheap. Those cars particularly are very expensive. And I'm always up here trying to decrease the liability of the city, so
Yeah.
that's how I feel. I'm not against it, like 100%. I understand the need for it. But I'm also in favor of looking at a stipend pay to the officers, which, I mean, if I was an officer, I'd rather have the cash than the car. That's just my opinion, but I only speak for myself.
Can-
That's if you take the cash, that's taxes that you gotta pay, so that's less cash than that would have put in the pocket compared to saving the gas money, taking one of our cars back and forth.
That's what I was looking at, that even though they're still gonna pay a little bit more with the, and if we could do it, we could do it now. Besides, we could come back in 6 months and see, maybe someone will want the stipend, someone would like to keep the,
We all know
The
government programs don't stop. So once government program stops, it never starts, it never stops.
I don't know, we've stopped a couple before, but, yeah. I know the vehicles carry ammunition and rifles and other stuff in their back of their cars. Are we gonna do anything about that? Because they're gonna be out there and nobody's gonna be around them
Currently,
in unsecured areas.
the rewriting of the policy would be that when they're home, when the vehicle's at home, their, city weapons would either be left here or they could take them,
Put them in a safe.
lock them up inside a safe at their home, that way it's not in the vehicle when they're not moving.
Yeah, most of the guys eventually get a safety, I don't know about the brand new ones wouldn't, but, some of the guys would get a safe if they had them, so. Oh, any questions from the audience? Hilda?
Hi, I'm Hilda Crawford. I have a question, and I'm maybe out in left field when it concerns the police department, but why is it that they're not made to live in Coalinga? I agree with Marissa. The prison at one time told us that they had to live within a 25-mile radius within the town. What do you see? You see all these little vans transporting them, and nobody lives, they much rather live in Lemoore, Hanford, or somewhere else instead of coming here to Coalinga and living. And I don't know if you can enforce it, but
Can you
I don't
give her the rules on that?
I'm not quite sure when or if it was changed, but there basically is state law prohibiting the requirement to live within city limits for really any position. There are certain circumstances where you can, when you do need like first responders to do that, but I think within 50 miles you're well and not within that range.
it's just kind of sad because you want to bring them into town. And if they're here, then they don't have to travel the 50 miles to get to town if something happens. And now, the prison said the same thing, and they were all up and, oh, well, we're gonna do this, and look what there's happening. You see the vans parked everywhere. I think
Hilda?
that's just unfortunate.
Actually, in the department's policy about 16 years ago, it was in the policy that they had to live within 30 minutes of the city, but because of the law change, we had to remove that from our policy.
Okay, well, that answers my question. I was just curious. I just didn't understand. I was just, it would be nice to see the officers in town, living here, because then you get to meet them, get to talk to them, and it's just, I guess it's just nice that they can buy a home here and live here. But, okay, well, thank you so much. That's what I was just curious.
Thank you, Hilda. Anybody else?
I'm sorry, you guys know I always have an opinion. I just have a comment. I raised a kid who's a sergeant at Tulare PD, and I just remember back when he started as a rookie in Delano, he drove his PD squad car all the way to Porterville. They distilled that trust in him. And when we were in Porterville, he had so many people that were his buddies that went through academy that went to Delano and worked there. They all eventually progressed over to Tulare, but I know Delano gained a lot of good officers, solid officers from him being able to do that. And that's a long ways. And I was blown away. I was surprised. But I think the advertisement is priceless. I would love to go to Fresno or Clovis and see a squad car that says Coalinga. I think that's awesome, and I think that's priceless. So just something to consider. Thank you, guys.
Also in the policy, I have in there that the vehicle must be parked in a garage. If they live in an apartment complex, they wouldn't be allowed to take the vehicle home because I don't want it parked in a general parking lot where who knows who can walk by. But so if they were allowed to take a vehicle out of the city and park it at their home, they'd have to park it within a garage at their residence.
And right, Chief, right now, how many do we have out of town?
Say again?
How many officers do we have out of
At
town?
least half the department.
At the department, six, yeah.
Yeah, there's currently 8 of us that live within the city limits or within a couple miles. And then the remaining that's on my staff now live outside the city.
I think that was perfect wording by Mr. George, that's an advertisement, to see if see a Coalinga PD vehicle out there in Clovis or something, and saying, hey, they're letting them take the vehicles, let's try that. Just like Mr. Vosberg said, I read about it, and yeah, even Fresno's struggling with officers. We don't want to hit that mark where we're really, really in trouble. And if we could at least help out with this, I think right now, like Mr. Vosberg said, it would be the right time to do it.
And as easy as it comes, easy as it can go. If they violate the policy or they aren't doing what they're supposed to, I can take that privilege away from them.
Well, what'd you like to do, guys?
I got another quick question.
Okay.
What's it's a 3-year term, correct, for the vehicles as of right now? Or is it per year, every 2 years?
Our vehicle?
Yeah, the
Turnover?
mileage. And what's our mileage for that period of time that we can't go over?
Do you have that information on the police department vehicles with the enterprise fleet contract?
No, not right offhand, but I can get it for you and get it to you. I believe my patrol marked units are a 2-year rotation.
Okay.
My admin vehicles, I put on a 4-year rotation because they're not driven as much as a patrol vehicle. But that information I can get to the council so they can review it.
Yeah, because that might make a difference if it's still under, even over 2 years. The furthest they're going to get is roughly 11,000 miles, I believe it is, a year
I'm not sure.
for
Greg,
travel.
do you remember reading that in the contract?
No, not offhand. All my vehicles are 5 years, and I believe it was 12,000 a year, somewhere around there.
Pretty close. Okay.
I'll double check and get it to you.
Yeah, I mean, my only issue again is liability. If we have an officer who's been working, doing overtime, as you guys have been saying, and he falls asleep on the way home, drifts over, hits somebody, kills them, not only is it sad for the family who died, but everything that this council's been working on for years, trying to get to our finances to where they are today, is gonna be wiped out completely. So that's also something to think about.
That would happen either way, wouldn't it? Even if they were in their
Whether
own
they
car?
have their personal or
Well,
work.
like, as the city attorney had said, I mean, anyone can sue anybody for anything.
Right.
But it makes it an apparent liability if they are in a city vehicle versus if they're in their personal vehicle. If any of our employees are commuting to and from work and they're involved in an accident, generally the city is not liable.
Okay.
I just think this is a start, that we could do something for our officers that been working their butt off. And I think there's a little bit, I understand the liability, I understand the other options, I understand everything, but I think right now, this department is sweating and killing themselves, trying to replace and keep our community safe. And then something little as this, as we could do it right now, would be the best idea and the best time to do it. It's just my opinion.
I was reading through this. You have GPS on the new vehicles?
Yes, every car, not on the vehicle, but on the computer that's in the vehicle,
Okay.
they all have GPS and we can track when they're in their vehicle. As long as that computer's on, we can track where it's going.
So it doesn't track when it's off?
No.
Is there a way that if this goes, possibly doing something like that, so you can actually keep track if they're using it?
I think the only way I can do that is actually put a GPS tracker on each vehicle. But as far as my policy goes with the computers, if a computer's in a vehicle and they're driving our vehicle, that computer has to be on in that vehicle, so we know where they're at and where they're,
And the new radios will help with that too, right?
yes, the new radios that we have coming in are all GPS tracked, so, and even if they have their body cameras, the body cameras are GPS tracked.
And then we have I forgot what they call it, a buddy system, like if another agency needed help, we could send them straight. Mutual aid, yes. We have that still too, don't we? Could do that too. Okay, what would you like to do?
I mean, if we can, I'd like to vote and see if we could do this for 6 months. While the 6 months, let's research a little bit more and bring it in and see how it works. And after 6 months, we'll see how it goes more.
Okay. Okay, hold on, we have one other question. I didn't see your hand back there.
Lonnie Hitchcock. I'm in a union, work for the oil companies out here. When you do this and you give the officers extra money to drive or the car, and you don't do something for the ones that are here, you're gonna create animosity in the force. Hands down, it will not work. If you're
Well,
gonna do
they're
something-
getting it right now with the guys here.
If you're gonna do something like let the guys drive, whatever the value of that is, people that live here in town need to get a raise. And that's the incentive to live here, because you're gonna make more money. And if you live somewhere else, you're gonna make less, you get to drive a car, but you're not gonna bring home as much. And that's how to get more officers here. And everybody's equal in pay, because incentivizing them to have a car and live somewhere else, we're gonna have more people living somewhere else, and it's gonna cost more money. So that's something that you need to take into consideration.
It's true.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lonnie. Anybody else? Okay, do you guys want to do anything right now, or you want to get more information?
Yeah, I think we need to wait for some more information. The cost, if there's any extra cost liability, and then,
The fleet management information.
yes, please.
Okay, we'll table it till next meeting then.
Sounds good.
Okay, that doesn't have to be voted on, does it, or? No. Okay, we go to item number 7, announcements. City manager's announcements, do you have any?
I do. I just wanted to let the community know, I emailed Mary earlier, so she may write all the details that I won't remember off the top of my head in next week's paper, but we did the community panel for police chief interviews today. We had 6 qualified applicants initially, 2 withdrew, so that left us with 4. And they had community interview panels this morning, and of the 4, 2 are moving forward to interview with city staff. And Mary has the information on who was on the committee and all of that. And that was my only announcement.
Okay, any council members' announcements? Okay, I don't have any announcements. We have no closed session today. Anybody in the audience like to say anything else? Okay. I'm sorry, what? Oh. Now, Darren, this isn't your last meeting, is it?
No.
It's not your last meeting, though, yet. 17th of February.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any future agenda items?
I've got 3 of them. One about possibly switching the location of the park, the dog park, to the very far backside by the maintenance building at Olson Park possibly. It's already got grass. They would just have to fence off an area.
The which
If-
park?
if we- Olson Park, the dog park.
Oh, the dog park.
Moving it from its location where it's useless over to like the park, because it's only like a 50 by 50 area.
Well, we
They'll be-
don't,
they'll be
we don't
parking
take care
rec.
of either
They'll be
one of the
parking rec.
properties.
Yeah, they'll be
That's-
parking rec,
That's
right?
under Parks and Rec,
Okay.
both properties.
Uh,
You'd have to go to their board for that,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, the rec was on list to build that dog park, and they took it off the list, and they want the city to pay for it. So, we kind of get with them and hopefully go back to that list. They were supposed to make that dog park.
Okay, the second one is about bringing back the pay scale for sworn and non-sworn police departments and possibly amending to see if we can retain and possibly get new officers to actually come here, besides the vehicle and all the gas issue.
We could, on that too, we could find out how much, if we did give them the car balance, how much that's costing us. And then we could put that into how much that we give them to, and that way we would be giving them to everybody
Right.
instead
Right,
of
that's what I
just
said,
like,
across the department, sworn and non-sworn.
like Lonnie said. So,
And the third, sorry.
And the third one is, I want to propose us doing since we have to do yearly training anyways at the beginning of the year, is there any way that we can, as a council, because it changes every few years, go over the code of conduct at the same time, at the beginning of the year? That way, if we need to revise it or change it or anything else, we can do it at that time.
okay.
But I'd like to see about going over it the next meeting, just that way if there is anything we need to change.
Okay. Anything else?
I'd like to. I'm gonna go get a hold of Mark.
That's all Parks and Rec.
Even the easement?
Where'd Sean go?
He's back
He's
there.
behind,
Oh, he's back
he's
there.
listening.
Hey, Sean. Hey, if you could give us an update with the PG&E issue at the next meeting?
Okay, if that's nothing else, call this meeting adjourned. Thank you guys for coming.